Tonight I'm going to give my best shot at addressing Pan-Africanism. Now, the reason why I said I'm going to give my best shot at addressing Pan-Africanism is because there's not one particular definition of Pan-Africanism. There's a consistent definition, but then there are different ways of practicing Pan-Africanism or recognizing Pan-Africanism as to where it splinters off in different things. But what I'm going to first try to do is give you the common idea of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is a worldwide intellectual movement that aims to encourage and strengthen the bonds of solidarity between all people of African descent, based upon a common fate going back to the Atlantic slave trade. The movement extends beyond continental Africans, meaning people indigenous of the continent of Africa, people who grew up there, have blood ties, family, land, with a substantial support based among the African diaspora in the Caribbean, Latin America, and United States. African diaspora. A diaspora is the movement of people away from their homeland. Same thing with Jewish people, Native Americans. Anybody that is moved away from where they're from is diaspora is a name for that. Being trained in transatlantic history, what is specific about the diaspora of Africans is, first, they were brought up from the west coast of Africa up to Portugal in 1419. Then the obvious diaspora came in 1492, right, or 1493, whenever Columbus came back. And then that's your southern Atlantic, the slave trade that went from west coast of Africa to the Caribbean, South America. Then you came to southern Atlantic up to the northern Atlantic. Now, that's called the Black Atlantic, that slave trade movement, right? And that's where black people got distributed all over the world. And obviously the white Atlantic would be the Europeans coming over, the green Atlantic being the Irish, the red Atlantic being the Native Americans, both ways. But in this, we're talking about the African diaspora in the Caribbean, Latin America, and United States, and also Europe, because remember, the first place they went was Portugal, so a lot of people leave Europe out. And then from that, they moved throughout the world. So Pan-Africanism are all people. The best way I heard it put was by Dr. Umar Johnson. He said that Pan-Africanism focuses on where the boat picked people up, not where they dropped them off. So when people, I'm not from Africa, I ain't never been there. Well, his thought process is where your focus is on where you got dropped off. But obviously, people from African descent are Africans. So, it is based on the belief that unity is vital to economic, social, and political progress, and aims to unify and uplift people of African descent. The ideology asserts that the fate of all African people and countries are intertwined. At its core, Pan-Africanism is a belief that African people, both on the continent and in the diaspora, share not merely common history, but a common destiny. The common destiny when black folks were moved, we were moved for a reason. We weren't moved for wealth. We were moved to be labor. We were moved to be labor, and were consistently labor because we were moved by imperialists. We were moved by the Spanish. We were moved by the Portuguese. We were moved by the English. All of them had the idea of using the African as free labor. Now, the extent of abuse in relationship between the owner and slave varied from the Portuguese and the Spanish to the worst being the British. But that was always what we were moved for, and into Europe being Portugal. That's why we were brought there. So there is generally suffrage wherever the people of the diaspora are. Further, we also know that King Leopold II from Berlin saw how well, air quotes, slavery had worked out for the United States, and different countries wanted their own new world. They wanted their own United States, a place to go to imperialize. And what you got to understand, England was tapped of resources when the whole discovery or settlement of the New World happened. And there was a lot of resources extracted out of the United States, or what later became the United States, that brought great wealth to Europe. So the 13 colonies was a great bang to the European economy that was really suffering and about to suffer more. So when other countries saw Berlin sees like this great wealth coming, they began to colonize Africa. And King Leopold II not only colonized the Congo, he privatized it. Like, it wasn't Berlin's, it was his. And just all types of horrific things happened. So not only were the people in the diaspora living in bad conditions, as did the people on the continent of Africa, because once the resources were realized, or once the weakness in military was realized, the negotiations with Africa stopped. In the imperial, because at first it was imperialism in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, so we got Europe, Africa here, and it was imperialism over here. Well, once they quote unquote felt they have filled this up, they started attacking here, and that was when they started to find out, wow, we got rubber trees, we got all kind of animals, you got ivory, you got diamonds, you got this, you got that, you got this, you got that. All of these. This is a mineral-rich continent. Mines. So, we ended up with a weakened state of the African people altogether, in the continent of Africa and that of the diaspora. So that's part one of Pan-Africanism. We're going to pick it up with part two.